Today, we have two off-road focused SUV siblings from the Toyota family. On the left, we have a 4Runner TRD Pro, and on the right is a Lexus GX550 Overtrail Plus. Now, these are related platform siblings, so there are some key similarities, but some key differences. So there is a $10,000 price difference between the two, but there is something very important to consider, and that is value retention. Historically, the 4Runner and the GX have been known to hold value very strongly, especially something like the TRD Pro here. Now, there are some variables to consider for the latest generation. For example, this TRD Pro is a hybrid 4-cylinder only. That is a change from the previous generation powertrains. But typically, with vehicles like this, whatever you buy them for, they don't depreciate as hard as normal other vehicles out there. Now, these are both the off-road focused versions of their respective models. There are more regular on-road leaning 4Runners. There's a more luxurious on-road focused GX, but here with the Overtrail Plus treatment, you get the all-terrain tires, some more off-road goodies. Same thing with the TRD Pro, the more hardcore off-road focused version. Now today, we're gonna compare the two of them, check out the exterior styling differences, check out the interior, and take them for a back-to-back POV drive to see how they compare. One of the first and most significant differences between the two is what's under the hood, the powertrain. So the 4Runner TRD Pro is now only available with a hybrid powertrain, the iForce Max. It's a 2.4-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder paired with a hybrid system making 326 horsepower and 465 pound-feet of torque. That is paired with an 8-speed automatic transmission, and it'll tow around 6,000 pounds. Now, the GX550 no longer has a V8, but it has a 3.4-liter twin-turbo V6 that makes 349 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. That is paired to a 10-speed automatic transmission, and this thing will tow around 9,000 pounds. So the GX550 is up in terms of power and torque, and it has the edge that it's not a hybridized powertrain. It's just a twin-turbo V6, which does mean it's a bit more simple, not as much complexity as a hybrid system there. One other funny thing I noticed is the Lexus just looks a little bit nicer under the hood as a premium luxury brand, right? We've got the twin-turbo plaque with the Lexus logo there with that plastic engine cover, and you get actual hydraulic struts to keep the hood up, whereas the Toyota under hood is just a little bit messier. You've got cabling and hoses and stuff all over the place, and a good old-fashioned mechanical prop to keep the hood open. Let's take a look at design, which is a very subjective, personal preference kind of thing, and they both approach it with a slightly different take. Now, the TRD Pro was much more aggressive, over the top, in your face, got all these bulges and creases all over it. The Lexus, while it does have some of those off-road touches and it does stand out, has a more refined premium look to it, which does fit the personalities of the vehicles and the brands. The TRD Pro here, I actually think it looks pretty cool. I love the orange DRLs, and you got so many just bulges and creases look all over the hood. You have plenty of TRD Pro badges. Nobody is going to forget you're driving a TRD Pro. They're not going to think it's a regular 4Runner. We get the Toyota lettering in the grille, additional lighting down there, and then we've got 33-inch all-terrain tires. These two actually have the exact same tire, but then you get the blacked out wide and fender flare right there for contrast. Coming around the side and back, you have a big TRD Pro lettering stamped into the tailgate itself. iForce Max, plenty of clearance, approach and departure angles are all good, and then you can actually open the rear glass and it'll descend into the tailgate. That's a 4Runner specialty. Go ahead and close that. The 4Runner is very wide and aggressive looking, whereas the Lexus actually is more skinny and tall. It's like a skinny, tall box. One thing, this paint. Oh, Nori Green Pearl is just a spectacular color. I love it. Take a look at that paint under the sun. Man, it is so nice. Now the Lexus here, we've got the signature grille and the lighting up front, and you can see it's much more skinny and tall. The fenders do flare out a bit right here. You can see how it bulges out, and we've got those 33-inch all-terrain tires. No side steps. Instead, you get this fixed rock rail for protection, so no deployable running boards. And both of these things have pretty decent ground clearance. So if you're, let's say, vertically challenged, you might want a little ladder to help you climb up into it. But look how much taller the Lexus is. These are both fixed suspension, so no adjustable height air suspension, but the Lexus is taller, and the roof rack definitely helps, but it has so much presence. But it's a different feeling, right? The Lexus is skinnier and taller, whereas the TRD Pro is so wide and squat. They definitely both have presence on the road. To my eyes, I personally prefer the way the Lexus looks, especially this color. I'm a little bit swayed because of this Nora Green Pearl. I love this paint color. A couple details I like on here. We've got the line that comes along on the shoulder on the second row, and then coming around back, we have the full width light bar here. You can also open the rear glass. It doesn't slide down, but you can open up independent of the rest of the tailgate. In terms of cargo space, that's somewhere the 4Runner TRD Pro loses out because of the hybrid system. You have this additional hump back here that does eat into your cargo space. No third row in either of these two versions, so if you need a third row, you got to rule out the TRD Pro and the Overtrail GX550. But the hybrid system does mean you got a pretty high load floor here, and you lose out a bit on space. But it's still pretty wide and spacious, and you can still fold down the second row for additional cargo. Now the Lexus back here doesn't have a hybrid system, so you can see more of a flat load floor. You can also fold down the second row seats up out of the way if you need even more space. We've got a cargo cover back there. You also get a air compressor kit over here if you need to air up or air down your tires or anything else. Now it does feel like it's a little skinnier, so not quite as wide, but it definitely has a taller opening, so it's kind of a trade-off between the two. In terms of overall volume, they look to me like they'll be comparable, and it is also kind of amusing that you still have cup holder storage back here because the third row is gone on this version, but the cup holders do remain. So maybe if you're tailgating, hanging out back here, you can still have plenty of storage back here for your imaginary third row passengers. All right, I think it's time to get on the road and go for a drive. Let's start off with the 4Runner TRD Pro. Into the TRD Pro, the red TRD power button starts up. Immediately you'll start seeing TRD logos. There's one on the steering wheel, there's one on the start stop button, there's one here on the shifter, Toyota. There's TRD Pro there on the door too. Yeah, you're not gonna forget you're in a TRD Pro 4Runner. They definitely make sure of that. And right now, idling away in electric mode, because the iForce Max is a hybrid system now, not a plug-in, and they don't even say any usable electric range. Being super gentle with the accelerator right now, up to 7 miles an hour. But anything more, yep, there we go. The Turbo 4 kicks on pretty much immediately when you require any amount of acceleration, and there's no ability to control like if I'm in full EV mode or anything like that. It's just an automatic on off for the engine. If you're stuck in traffic coasting down, it will turn off the 4-cylinder. Now you might think, oh, okay, cool, they did hybridization, so this thing must get like 30 miles per gallon. No, this is 100% hybridization for the pursuit of performance, namely torque, getting that 465 pound-feet of torque. Fuel economy on this thing is not so great. Now, I spent a week living with a Tacoma TRD Pro with the same powertrain. I also spent time with the Land Cruiser, which has the iForce Max powertrain, and not doing so great fuel economy. Teens, right, in the teens. If you're in eco mode on a freeway, doing a road trip, the owner of this one, my friend Jason, has said he's done in the 20s MPG, but normal day-to-day driving, expect to see 15, 16, depending on your driving style. Now, to be fair, this thing is not necessarily that aerodynamic. We also have the all-terrain tires, so yeah, it's not meant to be a very fuel-efficient vehicle. One thing I did remember noticing is it doesn't have that big of a fuel tank, so you are going to be going to the gas station often because you'll fill up and be like 200-something miles to empty, and that can get sometimes a little bit tiring, right? We can toggle through the different drive modes. You have 3. Normal, Sport, and Eco will go up into Sport mode. This dial here also lets you control your multi-terrain system, your off-road modes, and you can dial between 2 high, 4 low, 4 high. You have some buttons for your diff and then camera, some shortcut stuff there. I like the number of physical buttons you get on this interior. Also for the climate control, you have all these physical toggles. It's a cool interior. We've got the nice new infotainment screen. All right, the Toyota lettering is, I think, a little bit cheesy. We got lots of nice red stitching. So that right there, the performance is going to be where this new powertrain does shine compared to the old naturally aspirated V6, which felt a little more how should we say, anemic, right? My friend Jason, the owner of this truck here, he says he vastly prefers this one. He's owned, I think this is his 5th or 4th 4Runner. He's had multiple of them through the previous generations. He had a previous generation TRD Pro, and he likes this engine combination much more, and obviously he's spent way more time driving this thing than I have. I think it's 13,000 miles on this one, takes it on long road trips and such, and he's a pretty big fan of it. Now, once we hop into Lexus, we'll talk a little bit more about how that twin-turbo V6 compares. Something I'm noticing immediately is the steering wheel is much larger diameter, much chunkier feeling in this 4Runner TRD Pro, and the ride quality, it's a little more firm. Now, I think as a TRD Pro, this one is dialed even more for that off-road capability and that feeling. This does not have those isodynamic sports seats that the Tacoma TRD Pro has, the really crazy ones that has like shocks built in. Yep, these tires are definitely not on-road grippy tires right there. The Tacoma version has those crazy seats that have 2 dampers essentially in them that you can tune different directions to keep you in place when you're rattling around doing all these crazy off-road things. They're a pretty cool piece of tech, but they really do eat into the second row space. The Tacoma TRD Pro essentially is a 2-seater truck. The second row seats are not usable for an adult or anybody with legs, right? It just, there's no space back there. It's for throwing your backpack or whatever in the second row. The 4Runner is definitely much more usable in terms of the second row space, but I wouldn't call it extremely luxurious spacious in the back. Let's see, let's go this way. Another thing you're noticing is the visibility out the front. You really see it when we hop in the Lexus. The hood here bulges up so much more. The frontal visibility is much more challenging in this. Now, on the flip side is it gives you kind of that feeling of presence on the road, and it's all aggressive. The hood bulges and things like that. And I feel like the visibility out of the Lexus is also a bit better. It's got a taller feeling looking greenhouse. Now, we should dig into the powertrain, how it feels. And maybe I said I was going to talk about it once we hop into Lexus, but I've got some thoughts to share right now. The iForce Max is a really strong, good powertrain. If you just ignore that it's hybrid and ignore that it's turning on and off randomly when you're at a stoplight or things like that, right? It provides solid torque. It's not exciting or charismatic, right? Just the 4-cylinder noise. Now this, you get an intake and I believe a catback exhaust on the TRD Pro. So you get a nice little rumble here and there. But after spending a week living with the twin-turbo V6, I've been driving the GX550. I think I prefer that one. It just feels a little smoother in the delivery, and it definitely, you can feel it's quicker, especially, I think that's a Sport Plus mode. We'll hop in that thing and dial it up. I just prefer that powertrain a bit to this one, and also 8-speed versus 10-speed transmission. Now, to be fair, the GX is a much more premium platform. The 4Runner has much more humble roots. We're at the very, very top of the line here with the TRD Pro, but if you hop in a 4Runner, there are going to be much more mainstream regular versions without the hybrid system too, just the 4-cylinder, which I thought was adequate. So right there, that was half throttle. See, you got plenty of torque. This thing is still a good powertrain, but if we're really going back to back, I still prefer the twin turbo V6 in the Lexus GX. Ride quality, these are good. The Lexus is definitely better, but it's not like orders of magnitude. It's not like the Lexus is like a floaty, comfortable land. Yeah, that's not the point of the GX. It still feels very much a body-on-frame brick punching its way through the air. And the other beauty is with trucks like these, I don't care about potholes. I don't care what's on the road, right? The tires and suspension will handle it without a problem. That peace of mind is definitely very, very nice. I am not worried about any of that kind of stuff. Now, the other thing is we're not testing the off-road credentials. We're not going hardcore off-roading and putting this thing into situations where you're gonna need the diff lockers and go through the different terrain systems and things like that, pull up the cameras to make sure we got the visibility and the sight lines. I am not doing that right now. We just had an opportunity to take them for a spin back to back. I was hanging out with my friend Jason, doing a couple other things, and I had the Lexus GX and he drove his TRD Pro there. I'm like, hey, these things are like siblings. I should take them out for a spin and see how they compare. Luxury features, the Lexus will have a couple additional ones. We've got the JBL sound system in this one, which does mean you can remove the center speaker. It's like a little Bluetooth speaker that, ta-da! I should steal this and see if he notices. If I just walk away, I wonder, he'll probably text me later, goes, did you take the speaker from my car? And the interior is, I do like this interior. The Lexus obviously is gonna feel more premium, but for the Toyota treatment here, I was a big fan of this thing, especially if it's all red. I had the Tacoma TRD Pro with all red interior, and I was like, oh, this is really, really cool. So this is, I like this thing. I genuinely really, really like this new gen of TRD Pro, but after spending some time with the GX, I might be swayed. So let's circle back to the garage and hop in the Lexus and take that for a drive. Both of them are pretty dirty. They've been surviving the end of Michigan winters. Little welcome sequence right there. Very different personality on the inside of the Lexus. Obviously, this is going to be much more luxurious. Now, this is the Overtrail Plus. The Plus just means it's got even more of the nice features. The upgraded leather here with these interesting indents here, but I really like this green suede insert on the seats. Got the two-tone contrast. They are heated, cooled, and massaged. It's got the same massaging function, I think, from the LX, so they're actually pretty nice. We've got the upgraded Mark Levinson sound system, and actually on the door, I don't know if you can see that, there's like this hexagonal pattern of green showing through the perforations. Lots of nice stitched leather. One of my favorite touches is the leather here. Instead of glossy black plastic piano black trim that attracts dust and fingerprints and scratches, this is actually trimmed and stitched leather, which I think is really, really cool. You have the big infotainment screen, which feels a little more integrated into the dash here, but you lose that row of like toggle manual controls for the climate that the Toyota did have. Instead, it's here on the bottom bar of your infotainment screen, but we have wireless CarPlay pulled up here, really easy to use. We've got our mode selector right there, and then that's the 12-volt power source right there, the outlet along with USB-C ports. Got a little cover right here with some nice like textured wood looking trim, cup holders, wireless phone charger. So it's got lots of good packaging and storage, just like in the Toyota, just a different personality and feel, less of the chunky, sporty off-road, in your face. This one obviously has to be the Lexus experience, right? The steering wheel here, trimmed in nice leather. It feels smaller diameter. It's something I noticed. It's definitely less thick, right? And it looks like it feels like it's smaller. So that definitely gives you a different experience with the paddle shifters there, the full digital cluster. But let's go for a drive, hit the road. You also immediately notice how skinny and tall these side view mirrors are. Very interesting feeling. And also, oh my gosh, immediately hop in how skinny and tall this thing feels. The 4Runner TRD Pro feels extremely wide in comparison. Like, yeah, the fenders flare out much more aggressively, but just visually, when driving and placing it on the road and things like that, this is so much narrower and feels more maneuverable. Visibility out front is way better too. The hood doesn't have all those crazy bulges. Instead, actually the reverse, it just falls away there with like a valley in the middle, and then the either edge of the hood kind of locate your fenders, the corners of it. I feel like I'm higher up. Now, it might be optical illusion of where the dash is and like how the fender falls away in the belt line and everything, but I feel like I have an even more commanding view. I know visually looking outside the two trucks, it is taller than the 4Runner, but sitting here, I feel like I've got even more clearance and view out and things like that. You still got plenty of buttons here. We got aux switches, we got memory seats here on the dash, triple diameter stuff, opening the trunk. This is definitely a nicer interior, but I wouldn't say it's over the top crazy luxurious. Like, it doesn't have a suede headliner. We do have a manual retractable sunshade here with the, you can see the roof rack up there actually. And it's a nice interior, but it's still on the realm of luxury vehicle interiors. It's more on the Spartan utilitarian side from my experience. Like if you hop in maybe one of the German luxury brands, or like a Lincoln Black Label, right? They have all the crazy nice touch points and soft touch materials and things all over the place. This still feels like you could take it off-roading as an Overtrail Plus model and not feel guilty about ruining your interior. Now, dynamics on the road. This is quieter. It definitely rides better. Still body on frame, you can still feel it. There's been times where I hear some creaking and a little bit of like squeaking from various corners. And the as soon as you hit about 45 miles an hour, it sounds like you're in a wind tunnel. The roof rack just makes so much wind noise. Now, it's not the fault of the truck, it's the fault of the roof rack. It'll happen if you're in a Land Rover Defender. I think they also had the option for roof rack, and it just makes it really, really noisy. So if you're going to drive around day to day, just don't even bother optioning that thing on there. But it's an interesting balance where you feel the body-on-frame-ness of this. Definitely doesn't feel like a unibody like the Defender. So the nice parts of that, it feels very just durable, like really solid feeling. But then you feel the impacts through the chassis and the way it transmits through everything. They can only isolate so much of it, but you can definitely, this feels more isolated, a little more refined compared to the 4Runner, and I like this powertrain more. Just the power delivery, the power numbers definitely edges out, right? It makes just a little bit more power, a bit more torque without the hybridization. Honestly, this twin turbo V6 is a pretty solid engine, minus that they did have a couple headaches with it, because this thing goes in the Tundra, it goes in the LX, and then here in the GX. But I think most of those, the issues were the hybridized ones. Comment below if you know the details. I need to go look that up again. Now, drive modes, we have a lot. There's custom, Sport Plus, Sport, Normal, Comfort, Eco. So there's double the number of drive modes. I do find it kind of funny that there's a Sport Plus in a body-on-frame, off-road leaning SUV, right? Paddle shifters, 4th gear, 3rd gear. Yeah, that's plenty powerful. Transmission is not necessarily the quickest shifting 10-speed out there. That's actually a big difference. I didn't realize until I started looking up different specs. I was like, oh yeah, this thing has a 10-speed, and the other one, the 4Runner and the Tacoma, get an 8-speed. Just a different architecture for their powertrains. Yeah, it's not necessarily what you're supposed to be doing in this thing. As an Overtrail version, tires, additional locking diff, full-time 4-wheel drive. So that's interesting, right? You go from 4 high to 4 low. It doesn't have a 2-wheel drive mode. 2 locking diffs, and you use this little toggle right here. So that's pretty cool. It's always 4-wheel drive. So that's a difference between this and the 4Runner in terms of the powertrain. Off-roading wise, again, like I mentioned, we're not doing any proper off-roading, so I don't get to test that out today. But on-road living with, this is 10 grand more. Is it worth 10 grand extra? I think for the powertrain, I'd be willing to pay it. And of course, you get much more luxury touches and things like that. Now, if you don't want to pay the extra 10 grand, just get a non-plus. And you'll lose out on some of the fancier touches, but at its base, it's still Lexus. I think the sound deadening probably will still be a bit better. The isolation, I prefer the looks of the Lexus. Jason prefers the looks of his TRD Pro, right? Comment below which one do you think looks cooler. So if you go down from the Overtrail Plus to the regular Overtrail, you'd be at pretty much the same price. Call it $70,000, $75,000, $76,000 for either. So then it becomes almost even more difficult to choose. Which one do you want? Which one are you going to go for? And that's an interesting thing with Toyota's lineup now. They're almost like self-competing. The Land Cruiser and the 4Runner are such similar size powertrain vehicle options price point, right? You have the regular Land Cruiser and the fancier Land Cruiser. You got the 4Runner TRD Pro. Now you go to the Lexus siblings, which are going to be a bit more upscale with this GX here. But you see there's a lot of like cross-competing within them, and you're shopping between them. On the nice side is you get more choice as a consumer. You have different options to go for, different slight little tweaks to it. But also at the same time, maybe that's fueling indecision. What do I buy? Right, I've got 75 grand. Which Toyota family SUV do I buy? Right now, I would go for the GX550. They're both really, really good choices. They have their own pros and cons. What would you guys go for? What do you think? Hope you guys enjoyed this quick little impromptu comparison video between the two siblings. Thanks for watching. Also, this may just be a twin turbo V6, no hybrid, but I'm also not getting the best fuel economy. 13.6 mpg this week. I've done 183 miles, mix of freeway and on-road driving. So fuel efficiency is not the strong suit of either of these things, but they're also both boxes punching their way through the air. You've got the aerodynamic properties of a brick and all-terrain tires, so none of them are set up to be the most fuel efficient per se.